February 8, 2026, 11:07 local time, 34 nautical miles south of Keshem Island. The USS Cole is conducting routine patrol operations in the Strait of Hormuz. 25 years after she was nearly sunk by a terrorist attack in Yemen, the Cole is back in harm's way. Same name, different generation. Rebuilt, upgraded, and returned to the front line. At 11:07:42, the ship's AN/SPY-1D radar detects multiple contacts, bearing 015, high altitude, descending fast. The contacts are not aircraft. They are ballistic missiles, 3 of them, falling from the edge of space at Mach 6. The Cole has 47 seconds to respond. Welcome to War Signal, USA. I'm your host, and today we're breaking down one of the most technically complex engagements in modern naval history. The day Iran fired ballistic missiles at an American warship, and how the U.S. Navy's response unfolded in just 12 minutes. This is not a what-if scenario. According to Pentagon assessments released through defense intelligence channels, this is a reconstruction of what happened. Let's set the stage. By May 2026, the situation in the Persian Gulf had deteriorated significantly. The Fitzgerald incident in April had killed 5 American sailors and 18 Iranians. Retaliatory strikes had destroyed Iranian naval assets. Tensions were at their highest point since 1988. On May 17th, Iran conducted a ballistic missile test. 3 Fateh 313 short-range ballistic missiles were launched from a facility near Shiraz. The missiles flew 280 kilometers before splashing down in the Gulf of Oman. The test was legal under international law. Ballistic missile tests are not prohibited unless they violate specific UN Security Council resolutions related to nuclear weapons development. But the timing was provocative, and the trajectory was concerning. The splashdown coordinates were 12 nautical miles from the USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group's operating area. U.S. Central Command issued a formal protest. Iran responded by announcing additional tests scheduled for the following week. On May 19th at 10:45 local time, the USS Cole was positioned at the southern entrance to the Strait of Hormuz. Her mission, monitor Iranian naval activity and provide early warning for the carrier group operating 90 nautical miles to the southeast. The Cole was not alone. 2 other destroyers, USS Bainbridge and USS Truxtun, were operating within 40 nautical miles. A P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft was on station overhead. At 10:58, Iranian state media announced that additional missile tests would begin within the hour. The announcement did not specify targets or trajectories. Commander Patricia Morrison, the Cole's captain, ordered the ship to Condition 2, elevated readiness with additional crew at battle stations. Standard protocol when Iranian tests were imminent. At 11:04, space-based infrared sensors detected 3 heat signatures near Shiraz. Launch detected. Trajectory analysis began immediately. The data was transmitted to the Cole within 22 seconds. But here's where it gets complicated. The initial trajectory analysis showed the missiles heading toward open water in the Gulf of Oman, consistent with the previous test's splashdown zone. For the first 90 seconds of flight, the missiles appeared to be following a test profile. Then they adjusted course. At 11:06:14, updated tracking showed the missiles' predicted impact point had shifted. They were no longer heading for open water. They were heading for the Cole. The watch officer in the Combat Information Center had to make a decision. The missiles were still 140 kilometers out. Flight time remaining, approximately 80 seconds. The rules of engagement were clear. Self-defense was authorized against imminent threats. But were these missiles an imminent threat? Or was this a test that happened to pass close to the ship? The predicted impact point showed the missiles would land within 800 meters of the Cole's position. That's close, too close for a test. At 11:06:38, Commander Morrison was alerted. She reached the CIC in 19 seconds. The missiles were now 70 seconds out. Morrison looked at the tracking data. 3 contacts, descending through 50,000 feet. Speed increasing as they fell. Mach 5.2, Mach 5.5, Mach 5.8. The Fateh 313 is not a precision weapon by modern standards. Its circular error probable. The radius within which 50% of missiles will land is approximately 100 meters. That means against a stationary target, it has a reasonable chance of hitting. But the Cole was not stationary. She was moving at 15 knots, evading. The problem is that ballistic missiles are fast. Even at 15 knots, a ship can only move about 400 meters in 47 seconds. not enough to escape a weapon with a 500-meter lethal blast radius. The Cole needed to intercept. At 11:07:02, Morrison gave the order. Birds free. Engage inbound ballistic threats. The Cole's vertical launch system erupted. Two SM-3 Block 2A missiles, the Navy's premier ballistic missile defense weapon, screamed out of their cells. The SM-3 is designed for exactly this scenario. Exo-atmospheric kill capability, hit-to-kill warhead. No explosive, just kinetic energy. The missile literally rams the target at closing speeds exceeding Mach 10. But the SM-3 has limitations. It's designed to intercept ballistic missiles in the mid-course phase, while they're still in space. The Fateh 313s were already descending, already in the terminal phase. The engagement window was narrow, maybe 20 seconds. At 11:07:24, the first SM-3 intercepted its target at 38,000 feet. A direct hit. The Iranian missile disintegrated. At 11:07:31, the second SM-3 missed. The guidance system lost track of the second Fateh 313 as it entered dense atmosphere. The missile's radar signature changed as it heated up during re-entry. The SM-3's seeker couldn't compensate fast enough. Two missiles were still inbound. The Cole had one more option, the SM-2 Block 3A, a shorter-range interceptor designed for aircraft and cruise missiles. It had never been tested against a ballistic missile in terminal phase. But there was no time for better options. At 11:07:34, the Cole launched two SM-2s. The missiles climbed at Mach 3.5. The Fateh 313s were falling at Mach 6. Closing speed, Mach 9.5. The intercept window lasted approximately 4 seconds. At 11:07:47, the first SM-2 scored a hit. The second Iranian missile exploded at 12,000 feet. Debris rained down into the sea, 2 kilometers from the Cole. The third missile was not intercepted. At 11:07:52, the Fateh 313 struck the water 340 meters from the Cole's starboard bow. The warhead detonated. The Fateh 313 carries a 450-kilogram high-explosive warhead. Detonating in water at that range, it created a shockwave that struck the Cole's hull with tremendous force. The ship lurched violently. Sailors were thrown from their feet. Electrical systems flickered. The forward mast, carrying critical radar and communication antennas, was damaged by the concussion. But the Cole did not sink. A direct hit would have been catastrophic. 340 meters was close enough to cause significant damage, but not close enough to kill the ship. The Cole was crippled, not destroyed. Damage assessment took 4 minutes. The AN/SPY-1D radar was operating at 60% capacity. One of the 4 arrays was offline due to antenna damage. The main communications mast was bent, degrading satellite links. 3 sailors had been injured, 2 from falls, 1 from a piece of equipment that broke loose. No deaths, this time. But Commander Morrison wasn't waiting for a full damage report. At 11:08:17, she sent an encrypted message to 5th Fleet Command. 3 words that would trigger the largest American military response in the Persian Gulf since 1991. Request weapons release. The response came at 11:14:31. Weapons release authorized, engage launch site. At 11:19:42, exactly 12 minutes after the first missile was detected, the Cole launched. Not SM-3S this time, Tomahawks. 8 Tomahawk Block 4 cruise missiles emerged from the vertical launch system in rapid succession. Flight time to the launch site near Shiraz, approximately 45 minutes. But the Cole wasn't the only ship responding. Simultaneously, the USS Bainbridge and USS Truxtun launched their own salvos. 12 more Tomahawks, from different positions, different approach vectors, and from the Truman Carrier Group, 16 FA-18E Super Hornets were already airborne, armed with JASSM cruise missiles and precision-guided bombs. The strike package that hit the Shiraz facility 52 minutes later was overwhelming. 20 Tomahawks struck the missile launch complex. The Super Hornets followed with JASSM strikes on the radar systems and command bunkers. Satellite imagery captured 4 hours later showed total destruction. The launch pads were craters. The assembly buildings were rubble. The command center had collapsed. Iranian casualties were estimated at 47 military personnel. 2 civilian contractors who had been on site were also killed. The strike was precise. The strike was proportional. 1 facility destroyed in response to 3 missiles fired. But it was also escalatory. Iran had fired ballistic missiles at an American warship. The United States had destroyed a military facility deep inside Iranian territory. For 72 hours, the world held its breath. Iranian state media declared the strike an act of war. The Supreme National Security Council convened an emergency session. Revolutionary Guard commanders demanded retaliation. American assets went to DEFCON 3. Carrier strike groups repositioned. B-2 bombers were placed on alert at Diego Garcia. And then, nothing. On May 22nd, through Swiss intermediaries, Iran communicated that the missile launch had been unauthorized. A local commander had exceeded his authority. The incident was being investigated internally. It was the Gravely incident all over again. Another rogue commander. Another near war pulled back from the brink. The United States accepted the explanation, publicly at least. Intelligence assessments were more skeptical. The missile's trajectory had been deliberately adjusted to target the Cole. That required command authority above the local level. Someone in Tehran had approved the strike, or at least allowed it to happen. But proving intent is difficult, and neither side wanted war. The Cole completed emergency repairs in Bahrain over the following 3 weeks. The damaged radar array was replaced. The communications mast was straightened. The hull was inspected. No structural damage below the waterline. She returned to patrol on June 9th. Same ship, same name, new scars. Commander Morrison received a commendation for her actions. The weapon systems operators who scored 2 intercepts against ballistic missiles in terminal phase were awarded Navy Achievement Medals. The engagement became a case study at the Naval War College. For the first time, SM-2 missiles had been used to intercept ballistic targets in combat. It wasn't designed for that mission, but it worked. The 3 injured sailors recovered fully. All 3 chose to remain aboard the Cole for the rest of her deployment. What lessons emerge from this incident? First, ballistic missile defense works, but barely. The Cole intercepted 2 of 3 missiles. If the third had been more accurate, the ship would have been destroyed. The margin between survival and catastrophe was 340 meters. Second, decision speed matters. Morrison had 47 seconds between detection and impact. She made the call to engage in 25. That decision, to fire first and explain later, saved her ship. Third, layered defense is essential. The SM-3 missed 1 target. The SM-2 caught what the SM-3 missed. Without multiple interceptor types, the Cole would have taken a direct hit. And finally, escalation is never predictable. A missile strike led to a facility destruction, led to a global crisis, led to a backroom deal and a quiet de-escalation. Wars don't always follow the script. 12 minutes. That's all it took from detection to retaliation order. 12 minutes that changed the rules of engagement in the Persian Gulf forever. If this analysis helped you understand modern missile defense, hit that subscribe button. We break down the tactics, technology, and truth behind military operations. Stay vigilant, stay informed. I'll see you in the next one.